Hello, we are doing a walkthrough of Turtle Game version 1. Accessible at this website address, unless it's removed in the future. No guarantees. When we click Run, a Turtle Graphics Python program executes. It takes a while for this blue square to draw, and then the player is placed in the center of that small game board. So the square is considered the game board right now. And the console window, which can be resized here at the website Replit, sort of is there for the human to see any instructions, copyright notice. And this, by the way, the console window, when you're using a Turtle Graphics project where there's a little turtle right there on that Python logo, emojis and colorful text may not be supported in this console window like they are when you create when you create a Python project, you can do some of that colorful emoji stuff. But when you create a Python with Turtle project like this is, certain things in the console are disabled. No matter how hard you try, you can't get it to work. But we have the Turtle Graphics window, which is the bomb here. This is awesome. Okay, so let's do a walkthrough to hit the highlights of this that you will soon be editing to turn into your own variations using the principles of computer science. Well, all computer programs, as taught in this course especially, consist of 5 sections. Besides your name at the top and a bunch of comments and works cited and all, we have the section imports, constants, variables, functions, and then the main. And they almost always are in that same order. Imports, you must have import turtle because this is called Turtle Graphics. So that must be typed out with a lowercase t in turtle. Constants, good style, not really required. I could get this program to work without any constants, but like the number pi in the world of math and science, it's just kind of useful to have everybody agree that pi is 3.14159 and a bunch of other numbers I don't have memorized. Dozen, that's a 12. It's just convenient to have everybody know that a dozen means 12 and not go around saying 12 all the time. We just say dozen. So title, developer, instructions, because they're in uppercase letters, we all know that they're constants, and it's your job to edit these in any future assignments by making changes to them. Those are the game-related constants, not to be confused with any board-specific constants, which board width, 200 pixels right now. So let's check out to see how easy it would be to upgrade this program. Everybody that's watching this video, I encourage you to change that to a 3, click Run, and of course you'll see a larger board that has a width of 300. Make it the size board width 3, and it'll be teeny tiny. Kind of ridiculous if it's that small of a board. So here's 3. It won't take as long to draw the board, but it's just a really small board there. So back to the number 200 there that was in this original version. We always add white space to code. You would not go around handing in or having other people try to help you on a project by cramming your code together like that. That just is hard on the eyes. It's kind of like you double space an essay for English class or history class. Well, the same thing here in code. You double space it, or you space it out in this sort of pattern. Variables. Now, these are things that change throughout the program, but I group them by purpose. There's this new one called the screen, and then there's the board, and I just put all those into the same category called board variables. But there's a natural separation there because the screen is technically a little different from the board. The player, we only have one player right now, but eventually you'll have more than one player in some of the games that you do. So these are all just named player, but I could have named it P, but that wouldn't be as easy to understand, P. And player is pretty long. People have to type it accurately when they edit this code, but it's not too bad. This is a line of code that just needs to be here. Player equals turtle.turtle. Just trust me, nothing will work if you don't have it. Get used to it. Player is sort of like you're giving birth, you're declaring player as a thing. And that first T has to be lowercase, and the second T there has to be uppercase, and you can't forget this set of parentheses. Now, there are a bunch of things you can do with a player. A lot of things that you can do, player dot. Hide turtle, shape, color, and pen up are some of the interesting ones that eventually you'll find in the notes for this class. Hide turtle hides it so that you don't see it on the screen until later I show turtle right here. So it's just kind of nice because it doesn't stay there awkwardly until it's needed. Hide turtle and show turtle are sort of opposites commands. The shape, there's about 7 shapes, if I remember right, that you can use here. You could look them up at various websites. Turtle's the only interesting one. I mean, you could do circle. Watch this. I changed it to circle there. And now after we draw the board, you will see the player represented as a circle, not a turtle logo. So there are a few that you can use, but turtle's the famous one. Green, a lot of colors can be used there. There's this website that has colors that we will eventually see a whole bunch of colors that you can have options, but all the basic colors are there, like red, green, blue. But turtles, in my history of seeing them, they're usually some greenish shade. So that's why I used green, to be honest with you. But now we're going to see a red turtle. Back to the green color, it's got to be in double quotes there. Now, pen up, that's kind of useful because if you don't have pen up, watch what happens if I temporarily hashtag out the pen up. It's like some little kid took the cap off the marker. Now, this is the board where I want the pen to be down, but soon you're going to see the effect of pen up with the player. So when I place the player at the position 100, 100 XY, the pen was down and drew a line across, like, say, the dining room table. That's not a good thing. So using the command pen up keeps that from happening. It's kind of nice. And last of all, you have to decide where are you going to put that initial position of the player. Well, this is a graphical coordinate system that we will later study in more detail, but this is the position x equals 100 horizontally and y equals 100 vertically. Please, on your own time, play with these numbers and understand and realize I should have put the player x above player y. I'm going to change that right now so that all future students see the x above the y. That kind of makes more sense. So if you have player x 0 and player y 0, which is kind of like the origin in geometry, that is what turns out to be the actual center of the screen. The center of the screen, which is really the lower left corner of this board because of the way that we drew the board. So back to the point 100, 100, that was my choice for this demonstration program. Right now, we're not making use of the user input, so actually I'm going to delete that. That's snuck in there. I'm not sure how. Later, I might bring that back, so bye-bye. That variable is not needed. I added 2 game modes that we will unlock later. Draw mode with pen up or down, and boundary detection mode. So true and false can be changed, but right now they are not in use, but they are placeholders for the future. So that's a walkthrough of your variables, not to be mixed up with the constants. And now the last part of this, the functions. Functions can be folded like this if you don't like to see the bodies of them. But the body code in a function must be indented. And it must be indented evenly. You can put blank lines within a function, but you must indent the code evenly, vertically. Otherwise, you'll get errors such as this right here. A red error, a syntax error, we call it, down in the console window that sometimes is not very helpful, bad input on line 50. It's not really helpful to know that that's considered bad input. It's bad indentation, really. So fixing that and going back to this working. So functions are beautiful in that the name of the function gives away its purpose, and usually you don't have to pop the hood and look at the engine of the car to see how it works mechanically. You just trust that display board does what it advertises that it does. It is not a good idea to name a function like DB, because who would know that that means display board other than the person who wrote the code, him or herself. So it's always good to name these, but you can't use spaces. Like a username, when you set up an account at, say, TikTok, you can't put a space in your username. Well, you can't put a space in a variable name, a function name, or a constant. You can put underscores, but we like to use this notation of capitalizing the second word. We'll study this later in the course. The B is capitalized, but the D is lowercase for the name of a function. Okay, we'll talk about the functions in later videos, but the main code here is simply to set things up by drawing things. That is, call the function setup and do whatever's embedded in it. So setup is kind of like Domino's or Papa John's. They know how to make a pizza. We don't really have to know how to make the pizza. We just call them. That's a call statement that makes this code up here execute and do what it does. In the order that the call statements are listed, setup is done first, but within setup, display title is called. So one function calls another, which sometimes calls another, which calls another, which calls another, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It can get more complicated. And last of all, this code you'll just copy and paste. This is the fun code. Up. Up is the up arrow key. So when the up arrow key is pressed on a computer keyboard, this will not work on an iPad. Move forward is a function. And so move forward adds 10 pixels to the player's X position. If you want to move in bigger chunks, change that 10 to a 100. And now when I run the program and press the up arrow key, as soon as we draw the board there, you'll see the turtle make bigger steps with single presses. In no time at all, he's off or she is off the game board. So I'm going back to 10. No, maybe I'm trying 1. 1 is going to be a very slow movement overall. And sometimes it does work if you hold down the mouse button, or the key I meant, the up arrow key. So it's kind of cool in that way. But usually I stress that you should press it one by one. So let's change that back to 10 for the purpose of this demo. Then draw player, which is another function, draws the player in the new position. You can see how it just does what's called a goto, which we'll study later in this course. Okay, so screen.listen is kind of crucial, because if you don't have screen.listen, you can press that up arrow key all you want, and it's not listening to the press. It's kind of like you're aimlessly hitting a button on the keyboard. Buttons on the keyboard don't necessarily work. See, right now I'm pressing the up arrow key and it's not working because I accidentally removed the crucial line of code, screen.listen. Okay, so that's a wrap on Turtle Game version 1, the walkthrough explanation of some of its basic features.